Please stand for the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The rules of procedure adopted annually to ensure a productive meeting. The Selectboard meetings are in the public, not of the public, meaning that the members of the public in attendance are entitled to the opportunity to comment, but the purpose of the meeting is for the board to be able to effectively and efficiently conduct the necessary business to govern the town. All questions and comments are to be directed to the chair, and the rules of procedure indicate that there will be 2 minutes allotted for comment from any single person on any single topic. The rules of the procedure are posted in the town hall and available for everyone to review.
Alright, so welcome everybody. Members in attendance tonight, we have Bob Jones, Mike Beecher, Jessica Van Ort, Tom Collard, and Rich Hewlett, and I'm Kristen. And I have everybody, I believe, except for the last gentleman that just walked in. There's a sign-in sheet right at the back. Mike Beecher is our chairman, so all questions and comments are to be directed to Mike. Just a friendly reminder, so pre-requested appearances get 10 minutes, and then everybody else is entitled to an opportunity to speak on a certain subject, but please just be mindful of time. To make it more exciting and fun, we're on PEG TV tonight, and this is a microphone that is for use by PEG TV. So if you are speaking, if you're a member of the audience this evening that's speaking, we ask that you please speak into this microphone. Just be aware of the fact that you're not going to hear yourself project through the microphone. It's just so that you can be recorded and heard on the PEG TV recording. So before you talk, we'll just make sure that there's a green light on this. So we'll all give each other a minute to make sure we have that. No deletions this evening, but we do have one addition if the board is up for it tonight. So following up to the ongoing topic of the town garage, we have a bit of updated information, but it is necessary to go into executive session for it. The reason would be to discuss the negotiating or securing of real estate purchase or lease options pertaining to the right-of-way. So is the board okay with doing an executive session to discuss that?
And we'll do that at the end of the meeting. Everyone okay with that?
Yeah.
After the public comment?
Yeah.
That sounds good.
Yeah. Other than that, the only other item is that our constable had inquired about whether or not we would be ready to discuss the special officer appointment, which I know, Mike, you needed to do some
I was looking to do some research that I haven't got my answers back yet.
Okay, so that's not to
I will
be
keep
added.
working on that.
All right. Okay. The minutes, so we need to approve 2 rounds of minutes tonight. The first ones are from our last regularly scheduled meeting of November 26th, and then the special meeting minutes, which got out a little bit late for our last one, but they were the special budget meeting minutes from November 19th.
I'll move on those minutes.
Second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Okay. Steffanie? You have the floor now.
Did you say Steffanie?
Yes, you have the floor now.
Okay. Hi folks, I'm Steffanie Bourque with the Rutland Regional Planning Commission. I'm here tonight as your municipal project manager for the Pawlet Village Pedestrian Accessibility Project. We are at the first, I guess, decision point for the board. The local concerns meeting was held on Saturday, November 16th. And following that meeting, there was a public comment period for folks to provide additional input on the 3 options that were presented at the local concerns meeting for crossing the Route 30 bridge. During that period following the local concerns meeting, there was feedback received. I provided all of that feedback to the board in an email yesterday. So tonight I'm basically advising you what the next steps in the project are. There are, in terms of the options for crossing the bridge, there were 3 alternatives presented by VHB. So they'll be looking for the town to make a decision which of those 3 alternatives they would prefer to advance in the project design. And then also during the period following the public meeting, you received some communication regarding the ownership of the parcel on the north side of the bridge.
Yes, Stephanie, and I do have some preliminary feedback from our town lawyer about that.
Okay.
So, I think that because of what Meryl told us, I think it's kind of worth telling Stephanie about that and just making it clear where it stands, because it looks like, okay. All right, so Stephanie, would you want to, does everybody know what parcel we're talking about, or do we want Stephanie to pull up a map?
I'm not prepared to map.
Okay,
I can give you a tax ID number.
So we're familiar with the parcel. So basically, my understanding of it is that on our tax map, there is a certain parcel which is up against the bridge, which was listed on the tax ID map as a town of Pawlet parcel, and it was using that information that the VHB engineers went forward. And so with the plan that they gave to us, there would have been only on the privately owned parcels, there would have been nothing disturbed outside of the right-of-way. However, on that particular parcel, which we thought was a town-owned parcel, there would have to be some disturbance somewhat beyond the right-of-way in the slope. So we got notification from Gibb and Doreen Mack through their lawyer that there was a deed that indicates that that parcel is theirs, in fact, and not the town of Pawlet's. And we asked our town lawyer to have a look into the deeds, and she says that from their initial research, they don't see any suggestion that John Thrasher's assessment regarding ownership is inaccurate. So she suggested that we could do a survey if we wanted to, and I don't know what the town normally does when there's a parcel on our tax map that turns out to be wrong. So I think we'll have to discuss that with the assessors. But in my mind, if we're going with the assumption that that parcel doesn't belong to the town and belongs instead to Gibb and Doreen Mack, and since they have indicated through their lawyer that they are opposed to this project, I don't see any way that the project can continue. Would that be your assessment, Stephanie?
Yeah, in terms of advancing with the project, my recommendation would be that you definitively determine ownership of that disputed parcel, because if it is in fact not owned by the town and it is privately owned, that I would agree with your conclusion that it is unlikely, based on opinions shared to date, that any form of easement would be granted on that parcel. So if that is in fact the case, you have a couple of options. You can choose to not advance with the project, or you could ask your current engineering firm, VHB, to circle back and look at moving the sidewalk to the south side of the road. The way the state road right-of-way is laid out in that area, there's a much more generous right-of-way on the south side. So that would be an option if the town would like to continue with the project. That, of course, would be considered additional scope outside of the current contract that the town has with VHB.
Anybody on the board have any questions for Steffanie at this point?
The property that's being in question here, you still got a sidewalk that you wanted to put up that hill. So if that's not the town's, where would that sidewalk go from that point? It's great that you go to the south side of 30 maybe, but
I think that what Steffanie is talking about is that instead the sidewalk would come along this side. What you would mean the south side of 133, correct, Steffanie?
Yes, I'm sorry. So instead of crossing in front of the church, you just continued the sidewalk along the same side of the road as the church till you got down closer to the intersection.
Now, that initially was not the plan that the scoping study had come up with, I believe because the grade on that side would be more difficult. It is somewhat steeper there, up against the church.
I have a question for Gib. If that was the case, you also own property on the south side, correct?
The old store was, and on the other side as well, of the Flower Brook.
My suggestion is that the people that it's going to affect the most are opposed to it. I just suggest that we, shut it down.
Okay. Steffanie, do you have anything else to add?
I do not.
Okay, let's open up the floor for comments. Frank?
Hold on. So sorry. Here you go.
I was mentioning this right at the start, that you needed to talk to Gib first. I'm on record several times of saying that, and I even went up to Stephanie's office and told her after Gib came to a meeting that Gib wasn't interested, and told her that that was the scenario. And the fact that you're pushing forward with it without having talked to Gib and getting an approval of a critical part of it really leaves just one option, because there are no other options really other than what was suggested by Rich, I believe, at this time.
Okay.
It should have been done before. Excuse me. Anybody else?
John Thrasher on behalf of the Mack family. Just to kind of briefly summarize the written comments I gave on December 6th, and I'll provide the board with some additional comments today in writing, but the proposal is essentially adding another lane of travel to an already crowded intersection. This intersection was developed before the modern concepts of setbacks. So you have building development, you have expanded roadways from a dirt track for wagons to truck traffic, Route 30 and Route 133. This typical side section was adding a little over 10 feet. The existing traveled lanes are 11 feet. So you're asking to cram into there a third lane of travel, which is very difficult. So that's the gist of my December 6th letter. The gist of things after reviewing the scoping study is there seems to be some significant omissions to the cost projections. There wasn't any allocations for funds for allocating rights-of-way or easement acquisition. The scoping study stated easements may be required on both sides of Route 30 and Route 133 intersection, and in a future phase, an easement over 70 feet of frontage along School Street in front of Max Market. I didn't see any allocation of funds for moving of utilities. Who's going to pay for that? The estimated cost for this phase 1 of alternative 3 was $500,000. That doesn't include phases 2 and 3, which was another another $900,000 to $1.2 million. The current proposal calls for one rectangular rapid flashing beacon. At what approach is that beacon going to be at? There's multiple approaches to this intersection. Those are $15,000 apiece. After the sidewalks were installed, would there be a request for illumination? Who's going to pay for those utilities? What kind of impact do flashing beacons and illumination on a sidewalk have on a rural village? And part, or maybe the entire rationale for this sidewalk project is to connect the church parking lot to the village. But this proposal doesn't take human nature into account. People are going to park in the closest parking spot to their destination. The post office, Mac's store, whatever it is, they're going to park the closest spot. So I'm glad to see that there's some discussion about not going forward with the project. And we look forward to further discussions about clarifying the ownership of that disputed parcel. Thank you.
Anybody else have anything they want to add for public comment?
May I add something to the conversation?
Yes, Steffanie, go ahead.
In addition to the public feedback that was received following the local concerns meeting, I received a technical memo from VHB earlier this evening. I forwarded that on to the board as well as copied Kristen and the V-Trans project supervisor. My suggestion is if the board is entertaining any path forward with this project, that you rely on descriptions from your civil engineer regarding the project design as opposed to an interpretation from some other party. So I'd encourage you to review that technical memo, and if you have any specific questions about the design or the specifications for what's being contemplated, that you should follow up with your consulting engineer.
Okay. Anybody else in the public have anything to add?
Yeah.
Just to add to what John Thrasher had said, I don't feel like the scope of the project matches the goals, I guess, that are trying to be accomplished about slowing people down and safety of the pedestrians, and the fact that that scope couldn't tell us actually how many pedestrians there are in Pawlet. It could tell us how many cars there were and the difference between 2018 and current day, but it couldn't tell us the number of people. So I don't really think sidewalks is going to accomplish that goal of making people slow down through the center of town. But if you want to put $500,000 into slowing people down, I might be in favor of that, but not. I just can't see the benefit of a 5-foot wide sidewalk in Pawlet. So.
Thank you, Kate.
Yep.
This is Stan Decker. Where 133 and 30 join, there's a sinkhole. It's been there since I was a kid. What's the preparations for fixing that before you put sidewalks in? Are we going to put sidewalks in and then tear them back out afterward? Because that's going to show its ugly face at some point, I'm sure.
I'm not sure that the engineer was aware of that sinkhole when they did the preliminary
It's
plans.
been adding coal patch to it for years.
Does anybody else have any comments? So how does the board feel?
I agree with Rich in the sense that, Also in this report, it did clarify whether that structure or that bridge could hold it or not.
They
So,
weren't gonna put any weight on the bridge, was their project, but that's kind of beside the point now.
I agree.
So, does somebody want to make a motion to go one way or the other, or?
I'll make that motion
Okay.
to, not to move forward with the project.
Okay. Is there a second on that motion?
I'll second that.
Is there any more discussion?
I will just say that we will need to then, we will need to return the grant funds that have already been expended. And we will have to talk to V-Trans to see what, there is a chance that they will be able to forgive some of it. We'll have to speak with our grant manager going forward.
Okay.
I also suggest that since we are unable to move forward with this project, that we look into other ways to improve safety at that intersection, because that was the main idea of this, and it's still a worthy goal. So I know that right now, Kristen has been working with V-Trans to look into getting the permits. Thank you so much for putting back up those flashing signs. We probably should once again ask V-Trans to lower the speed limit. Maybe now that we've gone through all of this, they will listen to us. Maybe third time's the charm.
And one of the engineers did mention that when we did the walkthrough. They did mention something about they were looking at, they hadn't paid any attention to the complaints about the speed in the past because there wasn't really any accidents there, but since we have filed a complaint X number of times, now they are looking at that.
Yeah.
So maybe.
Also, I think, and I think they said there might have been some shift in guidelines, so why not? Let's ask them again, you know, can't hurt.
Well, I think that's what I heard from most folks that I talked to in town. Our biggest issue is speed, and it has been for over 30 years. So if we're going to address the real issue, we really should stay on with controlling the speed on through our center of our village.
Julie has a hand up.
What's that?
Julie, there's a motion on the
Okay.
floor, but Julie also has a hand up.
Okay, under the discussion portion, Julie?
I just was curious if perhaps Steffanie would be able to help us if, I know technically we're supposed to have to return the grant funds, but I was under the impression that sometimes there is a mechanism to ask for forgiveness since we did in good faith do this first section of the project and ran into issues with proceeding. If the state would indeed forgive us that, I think it's $13,000 we've gotten to date.
I think that your V-Trans project supervisor, Peter Pochop, made it pretty clear at the last public meeting he attended that the town should anticipate having to repay any reimbursements under the grant.
Okay.
So that's not something within my control, Julie. The town is absolutely encouraged to do whatever they think they need to regarding closing out the grant. But I'm just advising you that that question was asked and answered by the V-Trans project supervisor before we even retained the civil engineer.
Thank you.
If I recall, at the same meeting, he also said that there was a possibility that there would be a review and that maybe the full repayment would not have to be made of the money spent. And one of the conditions would be that it was well known ahead of time that there was a possibility of a problem with that you wouldn't have an ability to get an easement on property. And this sinkhole issue, which was missed entirely by the scoping study and engineers, is a stop right there, which is not part of the select board's problem or a process's problem. It is a technical problem, which nobody was aware of, apparently, and so that would be a valid reason why there wouldn't be the town wouldn't be held to pay money for nothing that we would have gotten from this process, which should have started with talking to Gibb.
Can you hand that to John, please? Thank you.
Thank you.
I would suggest that the town bring up the new information about not actually having ownership of the parcel that you thought would have ownership. And I don't know any of the specifics of the grant, but there is existing sidewalks through the West Pawlet Village that the town has not been maintaining. There's existing sidewalks on Route 30 closer to Sheldon's store that the town has not been maintaining. And if the grant will let you put in sidewalks, maybe the town can use those funds, the grant funds, towards restoring the existing sidewalks within the two villages.
Thank you. John Davis would like that, please.
John Davis. I'm just curious to know how much this engineering study cost. Does anybody have any idea?
Something.
If it had been carried fully through to designing and constructing, it was slightly over 100,000. We have spent very little of that to this point.
Well, somebody spent it. And
It was paid for in stages. We would do a certain amount and then we would have a meeting, so we didn't spend that much money on the engineering. As we got to a stage, we decided whether to move forward or not.
Who paid for it?
We didn't pay for the full 100,000.
They made a proposal for what they would do from now for the next 3 years. And if we went with them for the next 3 years, there was an amount it would cost.
Okay,
But we've
I'm
only gone with
saying
them for a couple of months so far.
the engineers got paid. Where did the money come from?
It will have to be reimbursed by the town.
I saw the cartoon of that, and I know there's more to it than that cartoon they put out. But that's an awful lot of money for what I saw. You could pour a lot of concrete
Now, how much money are you
sidewalks.
talking? It's not the $100,000. It's not the $400,000. We didn't pay the engineers $100,000 for what they did so far. We paid the
I hope
engineers
not.
in stages for the amount that they've, and I don't know exactly off the top of my head how much. Julie?
Hi, yeah, so when we had the scoping study done in 2022, we had a grant, and I think that the town match was about $6,000, slightly less than $6,000, like $5,900. That was the whole scoping study for all the way up to Sheldon's and up to the church and then down School Street. The current grant, the $400,000 grant, that was a $100,000 match. We've spent about $20,000 to date and received back $13,000. So worst case scenario, if we spend this, if we have to give all of the 13 back, we've spent $33,000. So I believe that what Mr. Davis is talking about is some social media posts that went around, and I think it's absolutely shameful that those went around the way that they did. As the keeper of the numbers, I am telling you right now, I have to date had 0 people ask me about the actual figures that have been spent, and yet no one hesitated to click and spread misinformation to the community, and I just think that that's terrible. And I really wish that people would come to me and ask questions ahead of time instead of spreading lies. Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you. And grant money isn't free money. It comes from somewhere. It comes from your tax dollars, whether the state gives it to you, and we pay for that. And the state tells you how you can spend it when they give it back to you. I mean, that's what I see. Maybe I simplified it, but it's not free money. Thank you.
Thank you. We have a motion on the floor, made and seconded to, what's the phrasing, please, so I'm correct?
Cease progression moving forward with the pedestrian accessibility project.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. We will work with Steffanie and Peter and see where we go from here.
I guess I will.
Thank you. And if you need any other help, we can try and roll on from there.
I guess I just want to make a comment before we move on, but in my opinion, the people that would have benefited the most from a sidewalk in Pawlet are in the front row, and they are totally against it, because that would have developed downtown Pawlet and might have revitalized visitors walking up and down, people spending money in the village. I have nothing to gain from living on the other side, but if the people that I feel would benefit the most don't want it, then we don't want it, I guess. We'll just risk, people will just have to walk down the side of the road at their own risk to get around Pawlet Village. So that's all I have to say.
Any announcements?
Thank you. Good.
Zoning administrators report?
Yes,
She sent us something.
She did send us something. Thank you, Ron.
Jessica, I'm gonna leave your meeting now. If you could follow up with me, we can discuss terminating the various agreements, okay?
Will do, Stephanie, thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, bye.
So, at 7 o'clock, are we supposed to read it?
I did not read it. It's not mine.
Well, I knew it was going to be irrelevant, so I didn't hire it.
Thank you for that. It's disappointing.
Yeah,
Understood.
it is what it is.
Can you read the zoning administrators report, please? Thank you.
So a final reminder was sent to short-term rental owners to register their properties by January 1st of 2025. As of today, 5 of 16 identified properties are outstanding. There have been 34 total permits issued year to date, and Nancy electronically provided all of the board members with a 2024 zoning log. And that's all.
Any questions or comments for the zoning administrator? Okay. Planning commission?
Not this time.
Nothing, not this time. Okay. Road foreman.
Nothing this time.
I would just like to say that I'm very impressed with the roads, how they're being treated and how quickly they're acting on it, and the quality of the material that we're using is a huge improvement on my road, dirt road specifically.
I agree with that, and he's also that when there's freezing rain coming, he's putting 3/4 inch stone on the dirt roads, and then he's leaving it on there so we track it in as opposed to just plowing it off. I think he's doing a good job.
It's an incredible improvement to my road.
I just want to say, yes, I agree with what you guys are saying. Our road is really good. And they pay attention to what's coming up and take care of it.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
Assessor's report? Nothing from the assessors. Town clerk memo. Deb?
Yep, I'm here. I don't really have anything to add other than what's on my memo. The audit went well, and there were no discrepancies. And again, I thank Tom and Rich for being the delivery of the ballot bag. Matt Corey, I'm still expecting him to come and finish up the last 2 items for the PEG TV install. I'll probably give him a call tomorrow to make sure that we're set for that by the end of the month. Other than that, I don't really have anything to add unless somebody has any questions for me.
Anybody have any questions for Deb? Thank you very much. Have a good night, Deb.
Thank you, you too.
Julie?
Hi. 2 warrants this week. Payroll is $14,494.60. Accounts payable is $31,922.19. The breakdown of that is general fund $22,711.15, highway $21,816.58, and wastewater $1,889.06. For action items tonight, I have provided you in the warrant folder a resolution for you to adopt that obligates the remaining ARPA funds. Jessica and I had a meeting with the LCT and came up with a solution to protect those funds in case the sidewalk project didn't move forward, and also because we don't have a grant agreement currently on the wastewater project. So the resolution essentially assigns those funds to last year's, some of last year's expenses, and will leave us with a surplus that we can then adjust our published budget to move that surplus into the capital projects fund. We need to approve the general fund and highway budget. I also have given you the information on what the wastewater budget will be. And I'll come back to those as we move through them, but also I met with Constable Covino, who has set up a new radar purchase. That particular item was included in the planning for next year's budget. However, it has become imperative that the new radar unit be purchased sooner. That purchase in this fiscal year will likely put the constable expenses line over budget by $800 to $900. I recommend moving ahead with the purchase now, with the acknowledgement that that particular line item will be over budget.
Okay.
So I guess we'll start with, I'm looking for approval on purchasing that unit.
Okay, anybody?
That seems fine. Do we need a motion for that, Julie?
I'll make that.
Well, it's above the $600 limit, so just to be safe, I think maybe if you make a motion to purchase it, it's
Jessica
about
second.
$2,400.
Okay, there's a motion made by Bob and seconded
I second.
by Jessica to approve the radar, the new radar expense for Constable Covino, between $800 and $900. Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Frank?
Julie, do you know, Mike, can I speak? If the grant money penalty for giving up the grant and having the town having to spend the 30 whatever thousand or 13,000 whatever it is out of pocket here, if the ARPA funds, since it was the ARPA funds that were going to be used in a sidewalk project, could be allocated to pay if the state were that hold that against us.
We'll figure that out as we go
That's
through the
the thing I
process.
was-
That will be discussed.
But we have to know the ARPA funds by the end of the year.
So, did we approve that? We vote on that
That was
motion?
approved,
Yes.
yep.
Okay.
All right, I'll do the warrants. I move that we approve payroll warrant 25035 and accounts payable warrant 25036.
Any more discussion about the two warrants? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. The resolution for the ARPA funds?
We don't need to read the whole thing out, do we?
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
Okay, it's got a lot of whereases, which is basically,
Right.
yeah, this was the language that the VLCT folks gave to us.
Okay.
And like Julie said, basically what we're doing is the money that we still have left that we have to obligate, we're saying that it goes toward things we already spent.
Okay. If anybody wants to see it after the meeting, they can come up and look at it. It'll be available. So are you making that in the form of
Yeah,
a
I'll
motion?
move that we adopt this resolution for American Rescue Plan app allocation.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
We have to sign that too, right?
Yeah, it'll come along with the warrants. Is that all for the things we have to vote on, Julie?
No, we have to approve the budget.
Oh, right.
So
Let's sign these
I'll start with
first.
the one that you don't have to vote to approve, but the wastewater budget, as we worked through budgeting, is set to be 148,610, and that's a 3.16% increase. I need you to vote to approve the general fund budget of $537,065. This is a 6.77% increase from last year. do you wanna move through that and then we'll go to the highway?
Okay. Do I have a motion for the general fund budget? Do you have those numbers, Kristen?
The general fund budget is $537,065.
I'll make that motion.
Have a second? Bob second it. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Opposed? Carried. Somebody want to make a motion to do the,
Yeah, I'll make a motion on the highway fund budget from $739,500. It's a 25% decrease.
do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Wastewater budget?
I did just want to point out on the highway that, I put this note in there, but I removed from last year, the bridge and guardrails, which were the two big, or I guess this year, the two big, one-time projects. And when you do that year to year, the highway budget is only a 2.43% increase.
Okay.
I was just reading off right here as I was.
Yeah, it's a 25% decrease from last year, but last year we had those big ticket items, and I just think that it's nice for people to see that we're keeping, I mean, you're under inflationary rates by being 2.43%, so I'm not knocking on it. I think you should be proud of yourselves.
Okay.
And wastewater doesn't need a motion, right?
No, because it's a user's fee, okay? So then we've got everything done that you needed us for tonight then, correct?
You did, thank you.
Excellent, thank you. Is anybody else have anything, questions for Julie? Thank you very much for joining us. Have a good evening, Julie.
Thanks.
Oh, what about the rep to sign the warrants?
Yeah. One last thing, so for next meeting on the 24th, we needed, and Jessica's
It turns out
not-
I'm going to be out of town, so it
Okay.
will not be able to be me. Someone else will have to come in to sign the warrants.
Who would like to come in and sign the warrants? When will they be available? Tuesday morning, Julie?
I'm gonna have everything done by probably 2 o'clock on Monday.
Okay.
I can do that.
Thank you.
Bob will swing over. Okay. Do I have a motion to
Yeah,
appoint Bob?
I move that we appoint Bob to sign the warrants on 12/23.
I'll second.
Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed, carried. Okay, Bob will connect with you at some point, Julie, and
That sounds good, thank you.
so you'll have to make sure that you connect with her because you don't have a key to get in and sign it. Okay, perfect. Emergency management. Anything from Bob?
Yeah, Bob attended a state emergency response committee meeting.
Okay. Health officer. She didn't join us tonight.
And Jennifer emailed me and said that there was nothing to report.
Nothing to report. Okay. Wastewater, I haven't heard anything. Everything seems to be okay.
Did we maybe just get
All the reports of the testing and et cetera.
Yeah.
Yeah. Facilities. Anything with any of the facilities?
I don't know if
Judy?
this comes under facilities, but does anybody have any idea where, does anybody have any idea where the big cord could be that we used to string from the big Christmas tree down at the corner of the library around the back? Oh, I've searched. Yeah, we've searched, and that tree keeps going out, and so we need that cord because we think the cord that's there is not good. But I just wondered if anybody had to come
Nothing-
and get it for any
Nothing
reason.
that I'm aware of. I'm not really sure what became of it.
Well, we may have to get another one.
Yeah.
I think it grew legs.
Judy, I know that you came the other day and went downstairs, but by chance did you go upstairs to look?
No, I didn't. Would it be up there, Deb?
Well, who knows? I mean, maybe we can go up there tomorrow and check it out. Well, Sue's shaking her head no in the background.
You can just look around up there, Deb. I haven't seen it.
I don't think so.
Okay, I was just looking to cover bases
Sure.
before
Sure.
we give up on it completely.
Thank you, Deb.
Yeah.
That makes me wonderful.
Meadowy School, anything from that?
Julie, did you have anything from the school?
Apparently not.
Not tonight.
Oh, there she is. Do you have anything, Julie, from the
She
school?
said not tonight.
Not tonight, thank you. Older unfinished business. Cameras in West Pawlet. Pawlet and West Pawlet. I see the quote. So, what is, I didn't,
Mark
Hey,
Keela
loud.
offered to come to a meeting
Mhm.
to speak to the board more about it.
I didn't get the email on that.
I thought I had sent it, and then tonight I was second guessing myself, so I did resend it,
Right.
which perhaps that was the first time.
I did get it this evening.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I did send it along. It's about 1,700. So I did let Mark know that I would bring it up tonight to see if maybe
do you want to have him
he could attend the
Wow.
next meeting
see
to talk
if
to you a bit about
the
it.
first
or-
meeting in January and go over that? I think it would be beneficial. You guys all
It would be good to know a bit more about
Right.
it from him.
understand it better. Frank?
In talking to Fidium, they don't have an office, but they can have a salesperson come out and talk to customers in the town. But in integrating this camera with Fidium potentially over there in West Pawlet, there might be a person that can come and talk to you guys.
Okay. Did you have a number of who to get a hold of to?
They were supposed to be calling me. I called up Video in general and found out that they do have sales.
Okay, so you're gonna take care of finding out that guy's contact
When
information
he
for us?
contacts me,
Thank
I'll
you.
mention we're gonna do this.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. So he'll come at the first meeting in January. The MERP grant.
Oh, not a whole lot of updates on that. I submitted the signed acceptance of that grant, and they said they got it. We haven't gotten back the one with their signatures on yet. I did get an email forwarded to me from Deb. Green Mountain Power had contacted her saying that they knew that we were getting that grant, and they wanted to talk to us about Green Mountain Power incentives that might dovetail with that grant. So I can set up to talk to the Green Mountain Power guy early in the new year.
Okay.
The only other thing about that grant that I want to put on everyone's radar is that as we move forward, once we get the signed copy of it and we start to move forward with it, because it is about the town hall and the library, I suggest that the working group that works on it should involve someone from the Selectboard and someone from the Library Board of Trustees.
Absolutely.
That's all about that.
Okay. Thank you. Any other older unfinished business?
Yeah, there is one thing I forgot to mention. I don't know if it was last meeting or 2 meetings ago, we discussed the yield signs in West Pawlet around the monument.
Uh-huh.
And Damon he's gone down there and we've determined which signs are not up and need to be put up. So he thinks he has all the signs that he needs right at the town garage, so he's gonna get them up.
Okay.
And we've got the book that'll tell us the setbacks and the distance from the
Okay.
intersections.
Excellent.
We'll get those up. It's still gonna be confusing, but
Yeah.
at least the signs will be there
Right.
and will be covered. It's a challenging intersection.
Yeah.
Then so.
New business. The application, do we have?
Yeah, so I had sent it all to you after the last meeting. That I know I did send. There was another application that was sent to the board, acting as the local cannabis control board, and it was a license, a reapplication, another reapplication license, and Nancy looked at it and said that there was, all was well from the zoning perspective, which is primarily what the town needs to make sure is all good on, so.
I didn't pay attention to that, but.
I'll move that we approve. Do we approve it by number?
Yep, so it's license number S0000100615.
I move that we approve that license.
I'll second that.
Somebody second it?
I think they both, yeah.
Todd did. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Okay. Is there any other new business? No. Public comment? Frank?
I went up to.
We're good. I think we're gonna keep you in charge of the
Microphone.
microphone and you bring it around too.
You just need a
Thank you.
headset.
I was up to Montpelier and I dropped by the Secretary of State office because I had been talking to the attorney for the Secretary of State in regards to the open meeting law. And apparently I am not the only one confused. There's a number of people confused by it, and the legislature has appointed a board to re-examine the open meeting law with the technology requirements. And that will be commencing after the new year. And this is, since it was a legislative appointed board, the Deputy Secretary of State or Assistant Secretary of State, who I spoke to, said that she could get myself onto that. So if anyone has any concerns, then I can relay the concerns on the open meeting law to that board that is going to be sorting it out and probably making a recommendation to the legislature to fix it, because there's other towns that are having problems with it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment?
I know a couple meetings ago you guys discussed bringing Bill Humphreys on board. Has anybody looked into that? Or no?
The special officer.
The special officer?
Mm-hmm.
We talked about it, and we reached out to our attorney for some input to make sure that everything was in order, and I haven't heard back from her yet, and I've asked twice. I have to try and push her harder, so.
Yeah, I think we want to do it. We just have to figure out.
Right, want to make
what
sure that
kind of thing.
everything is in order and that we've covered all our bases thoroughly before we just make the appointment.
Jay Lukey, I'd like to say I think the board is doing a terrific job. You work well together. Thank you all for your time and effort.
Thank you.
Oh, that's,
Compliment.
we'll take it.
Thank you.
We're in trouble.
Is there any more public comment? All right, we'll make a motion to go into executive session.
To discuss the negotiating or securing of real estate purchase or lease options.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you all for coming tonight.